There's something strangely powerful about silence. Especially when it's digital silence, that quiet space between a message sent and a message received. We've all been there. You type something that matters, something that could change the direction of a relationship, a project, maybe even your life. You take a deep breath, hit send, and then nothing. Minutes pass, then hours. You start checking your phone like it's suddenly become the center of the universe. Every vibration feels like hope, and every time it's not the notification you're waiting for, you feel that little drop of disappointment. It's funny how a small screen can hold so much emotion, how a blinking cursor or a scene status can keep us awake at night. That silence doesn't just exist on the phone, it echoes in your head. You start to replay everything you wrote, dissecting every word as if you're decoding a secret message you yourself created. Did I sound too forward? Too hesitant? Too honest? You begin to realize that waiting, as simple as it seems, might be one of the hardest human experiences we face. Because waiting is not just about time, it's about uncertainty. And uncertainty is the fuel of imagination. When you don't know what's coming next, your mind fills in the blanks. Sometimes it's optimism. Maybe she's just busy. Other times it's fear. Maybe I said too much. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything at all. That internal debate can spiral into something far bigger than a simple unanswered message. It becomes a mirror, reflecting your insecurities, your hopes, your belief in yourself. But here's the thing, in that silence there's also growth. You start to understand what patience really is. You learn that you can't control someone else's timeline, only your own reaction. That moment, that quiet, frustrating, seemingly endless pause, it's where resilience begins. Because success, whether in relationships, in business, or in life, often requires exactly that, the ability to keep believing, even when you don't hear back right away. When you're building something big, you face the same silence. Investors don't reply. Partners hesitate. The world looks at you like you're crazy for believing in something that doesn't exist yet. You reach out, you present your idea, and then you wait, just like waiting for that one message. And every second of silence tests your conviction. Are you doing this for validation, or because you believe it's the right thing to do? Are you waiting for permission to move forward, or are you ready to move regardless? That's where most people stop, right in the silence. They interpret no response as rejection. But sometimes silence isn't rejection. Sometimes it's just delay. It's the universe taking its time to align the answer you're meant to get. Because when the reply finally comes, when the universe finally answers, it's usually at the exact moment you've learned to move forward without needing it. There's a quiet confidence that comes from enduring that waiting period without losing your drive. When you can keep creating, keep believing, keep building, even when no one's responding, that's when you're actually preparing for the reply that will change everything. The silence becomes less about absence and more about preparation. It's like the calm before a rocket launch. The engines are running, the countdown is ticking, and all you can do is trust the process you've built. Waiting for that reply taught me that patience isn't passive. It's not sitting still and doing nothing. It's an active choice to stay focused, to keep your energy on what you can control, and to trust that the outcome will reveal itself in the right time. Because what defines you isn't how fast you get an answer. It's how you behave in the silence before it comes. And when that reply finally lands, whether it's the one you hoped for or not, you realize the silence wasn't wasted time. It was the moment you found your strength, your clarity, and your purpose. Sometimes the silence isn't there to break you. It's there to prepare you. It all began with a message. A simple sequence of words that carried more weight than I realized at the time. I remember staring at the screen, thinking, should I really send this? It's amazing how a few sentences can hold so much uncertainty, so much possibility. The message wasn't long, but it was honest. And that's what made it powerful. Honesty, I've learned, is a kind of risk. When you put your truth out there, you're not just communicating, you're exposing a piece of who you are. That moment before hitting send, that's where courage is tested. Because deep down, you know that once it's out there, you can't take it back. You can't edit it, you can't hide behind drafts, and you can't control how it'll be received. You're letting go of control, and that's one of the hardest things for any of us to do. We live in a world where we spend so much time trying to perfect things. Our messages, our images, our words, but sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is send something real, imperfect, human. That message was exactly that. It wasn't rehearsed or polished, it was authentic. and authenticity has a strange way of cutting through all the noise. What made that message important wasn't what it said, but what it represented. A decision to reach out instead of retreat, to risk rejection rather than settle for silence. Because every connection, every breakthrough, every big moment in life begins with that decision to send the message. Whether it's a text, a proposal, a call for help, or a bold idea sent out into the world, it all starts the same way, with one small act of reaching out. The truth is, most people never send that message. They overthink it, waiting for the perfect moment that never arrives. They want certainty before they act, but life doesn't work that way. You don't get certainty first, you get courage first. Certainty comes later, after you've acted, after you've risked something. That's why the moment I pressed send, I felt something shift. Not in her, but in me. Because in that instant, I'd made a choice to stop waiting for the world to move, and to start moving myself. The message wasn't just about getting an answer, it was about expressing something that needed to be said, no matter the outcome. Sometimes that's the only way to move forward, to say what you mean and accept whatever comes next. And isn't that the same in every pursuit that matters? You can't build anything, not a relationship, not a company, not a dream, if you're too afraid to begin. That message was the beginning. It was a risk wrapped in words. I didn't know if she would understand, if she would agree, or if she would even respond. But what I did know was that silence would have meant regret. And regret is far heavier than rejection. So I sent it. Not because I was sure she'd reply, but because I needed to live honestly with what I felt, with what I believed. Every bold step in life starts this way, with a moment of decision that seems small but turns out to be monumental. It's the same instinct that pushes an engineer to test a rocket for the first time, or an inventor to prototype an idea that might fail 100 times before it flies. You act not because you're guaranteed success, but because not acting would haunt you more. That message was a leap into uncertainty, but it was also a declaration of belief, of intent, of authenticity. And here's the strange thing: the moment you stop worrying about the reply and focus on the message itself, you take back your power, because the message is yours. The reply, that's out of your hands. I realized that what matters most isn't whether the world responds to your message, but that you had the courage to send it in the first place. Because sometimes pressing send isn't about starting a conversation, it's about starting a transformation. The moment the message was sent, the real challenge began. The waiting. You tell yourself you'll be calm, that you won't check your phone every few minutes, that you'll stay busy and let things unfold naturally. But of course, that's not how it goes. Your mind turns into a theater, replaying every possible version of what could happen next. It's incredible how fast hope and doubt can switch places, how a single thought can lift you sky high 1 second and drop you in a free fall the next. That's why I call it a roller coaster, not because of what actually happens, but because of what your mind thinks is happening. You see, when you care deeply about something or someone, your imagination becomes your greatest ally and your biggest enemy. One moment you're confident. You picture her reading your message, smiling, maybe even typing a reply. You can almost see those 3 dots appear. The next moment, those dots disappear, and suddenly your confidence collapses. You start rewriting the past, wondering if you should have said something different. You question your tone, your timing, your choice of words. You even start doubting your intuition, the very instinct that told you to reach out in the first place. That emotional swing, from belief to uncertainty and back again, is part of being human. It's also part of every journey that involves risk. Whether it's waiting for a reply, launching a product, pitching an idea, or standing on the edge of something new, you'll always experience that same turbulence. Your brain tries to protect you by predicting every possible outcome, but in doing so, it traps you in endless loops of what if, and yet that roller coaster is necessary. It teaches you how to sit with uncertainty without losing your center. It tests how much faith you have in what you've done. Because after a while, you start to notice that the emotional chaos isn't coming from the situation itself. It's coming from your need for control. You want to know right now whether things will turn out the way you hoped. But growth doesn't work like that. The world doesn't move on your schedule. It moves when it's ready, and your job is to hold steady while it does. There's a strange beauty in that waiting period. It's where you get to see who you really are when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Most people think clarity comes from answers, but sometimes it comes from waiting for them. Because in that waiting, you're forced to listen to your thoughts, to confront your impatience, and to understand what you truly value. The longer you wait, the more you realize that the roller coaster isn't about her reply. It's about your resilience. When you're building something ambitious, it's exactly the same. You design, you test, you launch, and then you wait for the results. You can have all the data in the world, all the logic, all the projections, but deep down, there's always that emotional uncertainty. Will it work? Will people believe in it? Will it reach the world the way you envisioned? That emotional volatility is part of the process. The key is not to avoid it, but to ride it without letting it throw you off course. There were moments waiting for that reply when I thought about giving up, deleting the message, erasing the memory, convincing myself it didn't matter. But it did matter. Because the truth is, anything worth waiting for will test your patience. It will make you question your confidence, your timing, your decisions. But that's how you build emotional endurance, by not letting the ups and downs dictate your direction. At some point, you stop trying to predict what the reply will be and start appreciating the fact that you cared enough to reach out at all, that you were brave enough to risk the ride, because that's what this roller coaster is really about. It's a reminder that the price of connection, progress, and innovation is vulnerability. You can't stay grounded and still expect to soar, so you take a deep breath, accept the uncertainty, and let the ride continue. Not because you know where it will end, but because you finally understand that the journey itself is what makes the destination worth reaching. There's a very specific kind of stillness that happens right before a life-changing moment. You're not sure what's about to happen, but every cell in your body knows that something is. That was the moment I saw her name appear on my screen. After all the waiting, all the silence, all the second guessing, there it was. A simple notification, glowing faintly in the corner, holding the power to shift everything. It's incredible how just a few words on a screen can make your pulse race like you're standing on the edge of a rocket about to lift off. For a second, I didn't open it. I just stared. Because in that instant, I realized the reply wasn't just a message. It was a mirror. Whatever it said would reflect back not only her thoughts, but everything I had dared to express. And that's the thing about truth. It always arrives carrying both possibility and consequence. I took a breath, the kind that tries to steady 1,000 thoughts at once, and I tapped the screen. Time slows down in moments like that. The world fades out. The noise, the distractions, even the air feels still. You read the first line, and your brain starts racing to interpret the tone, the meaning, the intent. You try to balance hope and caution, but the emotions take over anyway. And when the words finally settle in, you realize that whatever the reply is, whether it brings closure, clarity, or chaos, it's the answer you needed. Her message wasn't what I expected. In fact, it was nothing like the scenarios I'd imagined during all those hours of waiting. It was raw, unfiltered, completely real. There was a kind of honesty in it that both surprised and grounded me. She didn't sugarcoat anything, didn't hide behind politeness or ambiguity. It wasn't the answer I had been hoping for, but it was an answer that changed how I saw everything, including myself. It's strange, because when you're waiting for a reply, you think what you want is control. You think you just want to know. But when the truth finally arrives, you realize that what you really needed was perspective. That reply reminded me that honesty, even when it stings, is far more valuable than comfort, because comfort keeps you still, but truth moves you forward. I remember reading her words over and over again, not out of confusion, but because they carried weight. They demanded reflection. And in that reflection, I found something I didn't expect: gratitude. Gratitude for the courage it took to send that first message, gratitude for the patience it took to wait, and gratitude for the honesty that came back to meet it. Because that's what growth looks like. It's not about always getting the answer you want. It's about being strong enough to receive the one you need. That moment also taught me something fundamental about communication. Every message, every idea, every bold statement we put out into the world has its own gravity. It draws energy, reactions, consequences, but it also sends ripples far beyond what we can see. When you send something meaningful, you're not just asking for a reply, you're setting a sequence in motion. Sometimes those ripples take time to return to you. And when they do, they carry lessons that only distance and patience could teach. Her reply made me realize that waiting wasn't wasted time. It was preparation. It gave me space to build emotional readiness to face whatever truth came my way. And that's the paradox of life, isn't it? The things we think are delays are often the universe's way of giving us time to become who we need to be when the moment finally arrives. In the end, it wasn't the content of her message that mattered most. It was the clarity it brought. It closed one chapter, yes, but it opened something far greater, the understanding that no reply, no outcome, no answer can define your worth. Only your willingness to speak your truth can do that. When the message finally came, it didn't give me the ending I expected. It gave me a beginning I didn't see coming. And sometimes, that's the real miracle of getting an answer. Realizing that the reply you've been waiting for isn't the conclusion of your story. It's the ignition of everything that comes next. When I finally read her reply, I had to stop for a moment, not because I didn't understand it, but because I couldn't believe it. It was one of those rare messages that completely rewires your expectations. I had spent so much time imagining how she might respond. A yes, a no, a maybe, silence, anything in between. But her answer didn't fit any of those categories. It was something different. It was real. It was human. And it carried a kind of truth that hit harder than anything I'd prepared myself for. She didn't respond with what I wanted to hear. She responded with what I needed to hear. And that's a subtle but powerful difference. Her words weren't wrapped in comfort or politeness. They were raw, direct, and filled with a kind of clarity that only comes from deep honesty. She said she thought about my message, really thought about it. And that while she appreciated everything I said, she couldn't give me the answer I was hoping for. Not because she didn't care, but because she respected what it meant too much to offer something half-hearted in return. In that moment, I realized that disbelief isn't always about shock or surprise. Sometimes it's about awe. Awe at someone's courage to tell the truth, even when it might hurt. Awe at the fact that honesty, even when it closes one door, can open so many others. I was stunned, not by rejection, but by the integrity behind her words. It reminded me that sincerity has more power than agreement. That sometimes the most unbelievable thing isn't getting what you want. It's getting what's real. And I won't lie, it stung. There's a sharpness in hearing that something you hoped for won't happen. But beneath that sting was something else. A strange sense of peace. Because her reply, as unexpected as it was, stripped away all the illusions and left me face to face with the truth. It gave me something far more valuable than validation. It gave me clarity. And clarity, as uncomfortable as it can be, is one of the greatest gifts you can receive. It made me think about how often we chase responses that confirm what we want to believe, instead of seeking the ones that help us grow. We crave reassurance, approval, closure, but what we really need is understanding. Her answer taught me that. It made me see that communication isn't about control, it's about connection. And connection doesn't always mean agreement. Sometimes it means honesty so pure that it forces you to see things differently. I've seen that same dynamic play out in every area of life, in innovation, in leadership, in human relationships. You make a bold move, you put an idea or a truth into the world, and the reply that comes back isn't always applause. Sometimes it's doubt, sometimes it's criticism, sometimes it's a firm, not yet. But those replies, the ones that challenge you, they're the ones that shape you. They force you to refine, to rethink, to evolve. Progress doesn't come from the answers that make us comfortable. It comes from the ones that make us better. Her message wasn't the ending I'd hoped for, but it was the kind of ending that carries respect. It didn't diminish what I said. It honored it, because by being honest, she acknowledged the weight of the message I sent. And that's something rare. Most people avoid hard truths. They hide behind ambiguity. But when someone gives you their truth with transparency and grace, even when it's not the truth you wanted, you walk away with your dignity intact, and maybe even stronger than before. As I read her reply, disbelief turned into gratitude. I realized that I wasn't just waiting for her answer. I was waiting for understanding. And in her honesty, I found exactly that. It didn't go the way I imagined, but it went the way it needed to. It reminded me that the answers that surprise you, the ones that challenge your expectations, are often the ones that push your story forward. Sometimes the most unbelievable answer isn't the one that gives you what you wanted. It's the one that gives you the truth you were finally ready to hear. After I read her reply, I sat there for a long time, just letting it sink in, not reacting, not overanalyzing, just absorbing. Because when a message hits you like that, you realize it's not just about the words, it's about what those words awaken in you. Her response wasn't the one I wanted, but it carried a lesson I didn't even know I needed. It made me pause and see things from a completely different perspective. It reminded me that life has this strange way of teaching you through moments you can't control, moments that humble you, challenge you, and ultimately shape you. In the beginning, I thought the entire journey was about getting her to reply. I believed that once she answered, I'd feel closure, clarity, maybe even victory. But I was wrong. The real value wasn't in her reply. It was in everything that happened leading up to it, the uncertainty, the patience, the reflection, the courage it took to reach out in the first place. That process, as uncomfortable as it was, revealed something fundamental. It showed me that meaning isn't found in outcomes. It's found in growth. Her honesty forced me to confront the truth about expectation. I realized how much we tie our sense of worth to how others respond, whether it's a message, an idea, or a vision. We spend so much energy hoping the world will validate what we feel inside. But the moment you stop needing validation, you become free. Free to express, to build, to dream, without waiting for permission. Her reply, though not what I hoped for, gave me that freedom. And that's the deeper lesson. When you seek a response from someone or something outside yourself, you're really testing your own readiness to face whatever comes back. You're asking, can I handle the truth? And sometimes the answer, even if it's painful, gives you the exact strength you need to move forward. Because truth, unlike comfort, has the power to transform you. It doesn't flatter your ego, it builds your character. Looking back, I realized that every great endeavor follows this same rhythm. You put something bold out into the world, a message, an invention, an idea, and then you wait, you hope for approval, but what often comes first is resistance, silence, or misunderstanding, and that's okay. Because every reply, whether positive or not, teaches you how to listen better, how to adapt, how to grow thicker skin without losing your sense of purpose. Her reply reminded me that connection isn't about control, it's about respect. She didn't tell me what I wanted to hear just to make things easy. She told me the truth, because she valued authenticity more than comfort. And that's rare. It's the same principle that drives real progress, whether between people or in building something new. The easy answers don't move the world forward. The honest ones do. I began to see that the message I sent wasn't just about communication. It was about courage. And the reply I received wasn't just an answer. It was a mirror reflecting where I needed to grow. It taught me to value the process of reaching out more than the result, because when you express something from a place of truth, even if the outcome isn't what you imagined, you still win. You win clarity, you win peace. You win the strength to keep creating, keep believing, and keep sending messages into the world, knowing not all of them will be returned, and that's perfectly fine. The greatest breakthroughs in life rarely come wrapped in the answers you expect. They arrive disguised as setbacks, as silence, or as uncomfortable truths. But hidden inside those moments is wisdom, the kind that rewires how you see yourself and the world around you. That day, her reply didn't give me what I thought I wanted. It gave me something infinitely better: perspective. It taught me that you can't control how others respond, but you can control the authenticity of what you send, and that's where real power lies, not in the reply, but in the message itself. Because sometimes the reply that shakes you is the one that finally wakes you.